So in today's class, we are going to learn how floating point numbers are represented in a computing system. In this context, we are going to learn IEEE 754 floating point representation. Okay. Using this representation, typically whenever we are writing in the program, whenever bits are allocated in the memory. In a 64-bit processor, 32 bits are allocated in a memory corresponding to this float, right? So whenever we are writing float of f or float f, basically 32 bits are allocated in the memory. Okay. So we are going to learn 32-bit representation of floating point, which is also called single precision. Single precision floating point representation means 32-bit representation of floating point. Okay. On the contrary, whenever you are writing double of say d, that means 64 bits are going to be allocated in the memory. Okay. So this is called double precision. So we're going to learn both 32-bit representation of floating point numbers as well as 64-bit representation. Clear? And in both cases, we are going to learn how to represent normalized values or I have to represent floating point number in normalized mode as well as denormalized mode. And or what numbers are represented using normalized mode, what numbers can be represented using denormalized mode. And other than that, there are some special values like plus infinity, minus infinity, or 0 by 0, which is called not a number. These values are basically special values. So we are going to learn how we represent special values in floating point representation. Okay. So we're going to learn normalized values, denormalized values, as well as special values. Okay. So special values, as I said, are plus infinity, minus infinity, or 0 by 0, or square root of minus 1. Those are basically not a number. Okay. We're going to learn how those are represented using floating point representation. Denormalized values are the values that are either 0 or very close to 0. Okay. Either 0 or very small, very close to zeros. Those are represented in denormalized mode. And all the other values are represented using normalized mode. Okay. So typically, most of the floating point numbers are represented using normalized mode. The numbers that are 0 or very close to zeros are represented using denormalized mode. And the special values like plus infinity, minus infinity, not a number, which are basically square root of minus 1, 0 by 0. All these things are represented using special values. Okay. All right. So in today's class, we are going to learn 32-bit floating point representation using IEEE 754 standard. And in today's class, we are only going to concentrate on normalized values. Okay. All right. So 32-bit floating point representation. in case of normalized values. These are the thing that this is the topic that we are going to learn in today's class. Okay. So suppose I gave you 32-bit binary string, and I'm saying that this represents a floating point. Okay? So how you are going to convert it to its corresponding decimal values? Let's try to understand. All right. So let's call it binary floating point to decimal conversion. Okay, that means suppose I gave you a 32-bit binary string and I'm asking you what is the corresponding decimal number. Let's see how we can interpret a 32-bit floating point number and how we can convert it to the corresponding decimal value. Okay, so let's first you need to understand different fields corresponding to this floating point number. Okay, suppose this is 32-bit. Suppose this is 32 bits. So among this 32 bit, the first bit is the sign bit. Which is 0 for positive numbers and -1 for negative numbers. Sorry, not -1 for negative numbers. Okay. The next 8 bits are exponent bit. So next 8 bits are the exponent bits. And this is represented in excess 127 representation. Okay, I'm going to come into the details of what do we mean by excess 127 representation and why do we need excess 127 representation. Okay. The first bit is the sign bit, next 8 bits are exponent bit. The remaining 23 bits represent the fractional part, the fraction part, which we also call mantissa. Okay. So let me, which is also called mantissa. All right. So in this way, a 32-bit floating point number is represented by a computing system. All right. The first bit is the sign bit, which is 0 for positive number and 1 for negative number. The next 8 bits are exponent bit, where exponent is represented using excess 127 representation. Next 23 bits are fractional part, which we also called mantissa. All right. So if I give you a binary string of 32 bit, and if I say that this is a floating point number, that means you need to first divide those binary string in 3 fields: sign, exponent, and mantissa. Okay. Now, after dividing it in 3 fields, the corresponding decimal value is going to be -1 to the power s. The corresponding formula for the decimal value is -1 to the power s into 1 point mantissa, 1 point the fractional part, into 2 to the power e minus 127. Okay, I'm going to explain each and every term in a minute. So if I give you a binary string of 32 bits, and if I say that this is a floating point number, you first need to divide this binary string into three different sections: sign, exponent, and mantissa. And the corresponding decision value is given by -1 to the power s 1.m into 2 to the power e minus 127. So let's try to understand this part. -1 to the power s. So what did I say? That the first bit is the sign bit. That means which is going to be 0 for positive number and 1 for negative numbers. So let's see what's happening when it is 0. When s is 0, it is going to be -1 to the power 0. -1 to the power 0 is 1. Okay. And when it is 1, it is -1 to the power 1. -1 to the power 1 is -1. So that means when s is 1, it is going to be negative number. When s is 0, it is going to be positive number. Clear? Okay. Next, come to this part. So this part represents the fractional part. All right. Here I am writing 1.m. Okay. So here I am basically going to use the concept of normalization. All right. So instead of writing 0.m or 0 point fractional part, I am writing 1.m. Why I am using this normalization, the reason I am going to explain in a minute. Okay. For the timing, just use the convention. Okay. So because of this normalization only, we say that this is the floating point representation in normalized mode. Okay. So this is basically the place where we are using the concept of normalization. Right. And next comes 2 to the power, the exponent part. And as I said that the exponent is represented in XS 127 representation. So that's why I am deducting 127 before taking the exponent. Okay, so that's why I am writing 2 to the power e minus 127. So here also I am going to explain why I am representing exponent using XS 127 representation in a minute. Okay, for the time being, just use the convention. So there are two questions that are yet to be answered. First one is why I am using the normalization term and why I am using the XS 127 representation. Okay, I am going to explain this in a minute, but for the time being, let's first use this formula to convert a binary number to its corresponding floating point representation. Okay. And also this 127 is called the bias in this case. All right. So -1 to the power sign 1 point mantissa into 2 to the power exponent minus bias. All right. And in different books, you will see 1.m, or in some places it is also written as 1 plus m. Okay, both are the same. This is also written as -1 to the power s into 1 plus m into 2 to the power e minus 127. Okay, both are the same. Clear? All right. So using this formula, let's take a binary number and then let's convert it to the corresponding decimal value. So suppose I gave you a binary number that looks like this: 0 0 0 1 1 1 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, okay. And then 0 1 1 0 1 0 0 0 0 0 0 until unless all the 32 bits are exhausted. Okay. So suppose I gave you a 32 bit that looks like this. So the first job is to divide the number in sign, exponent, and mantissa section. Okay. So here the first bit is the sign bit. Next 8 bits are exponent. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, and the remaining 23 bits are mantissa. Okay, this is the first job. Next, I'm going to use this formula. So the corresponding decimal value is minus 1 to the power 0 into 1 point Manteca. So I'm writing 0, 1, 1, 0, 1. All the remaining zeros I'm ignoring because these zeros are anyway after the point. Okay. But this is in binary format. Here, 1.01101 in binary format. Multiplied by 2 to the power e minus 127. Okay. So what is e? E is equal to 0011100 binary. So if I convert it to decimal, it is going to be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That means 2 to the power 5 plus 2 to the power 4 plus 2 cube. So 2 to the power 5 is 4, 8, 16, 32 plus 16 plus 8. So 32 plus 8 is 40. 40 plus 16 is 56. So then E minus 127 is 56 minus 127, which is 6, 7, and this is 7. So minus 71. Okay. So I can write this as minus 1 to the power 0 is 1. So I'm not writing it. 1.01101 in binary multiplied by 2 to the power minus 71. Okay. All right. Now the next job is basically to convert this portion from binary to decimal. Okay. So let's learn. So we have already learned how to convert from binary to decimal in case of integer numbers. But we don't know if there is a fractional part involved, how we can convert from binary to decimal. Okay. So let's learn that. So suppose there is a binary number that looks like this 10110. Let's take any binary number. Okay. And this is an integer. How do we convert it to the corresponding decimal representation? We basically number the bit. So this is the 0th bit, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then we write 1 into 2 to the power 4 plus 0 into 2 cube. I'm not writing. 1 into 2 square plus 1 into 2 to the power 1 plus 0 into 2 to the 0. I'm not writing. Okay. This is the way I convert from binary to decimal. Now suppose in addition to this integer part, I'm writing point something 0101, something like that. Okay. So how can I convert this portion to its corresponding decimal notation? Here is the technique. So in this side, we number this from 0 onwards. In this side, that means after the fractional part, I'm going to number this as minus 1, minus 2, minus 3, and minus 4. Okay. And then I'm going to use the same technique. So that means plus 0 into 2 to the power minus 1, I'm not writing, plus 1 into 2 to the power minus 2, plus 0 into 2 to the power minus 3, I'm not writing, 1 into 2 to the power minus 4. Okay. So that means this number is going to be 2 to the power 4 is 16 plus 4 plus 2 plus 1 by 4 plus 1 by 60. Okay. And then ultimately you will get a fractional number. Clear? So this is the way you can convert a fractional number to its corresponding decimal representation. Okay, clear to all of you? A fractional binary number to its corresponding decimal representation. Basically, the technique is the same. Previously, in case of integer number, I used to number the corresponding bit position from 0 onwards, and then I used to write the corresponding integer multiplied by 2 to the power the bit position. Here, in addition to that, for the fractional part, I'm basically numbering the positions from -1 onwards, and then I'm doing the same thing, the corresponding integer multiplied by 2 to the power the exponent. Okay, and then I'm adding it. So this is the technique. So let's apply the same technique over here. Okay. Let me just erase this portion. So if I apply the same technique, this is the 0th bit, and this position is -1, this position is -2, this position is -3, this position is -4, this position is -5. That means you are going to write 1 into 2 to the power 0 plus 0 into 2 to the power -1, I am not writing, 1 into 2 to the power -2 plus 1 into 2 to the power -3 plus 0 into 2 to the power -4, I am not writing, 1 into 2 to the power -5. Okay, this is in decimal multiplied by 2 to the power -71. So 1 into 2 to the 0 is 1 plus 2 to the -2 is 1 by 4, 2 to the -3 is 1 by 8, 2 to the -5 is 1 by 32 into 2 to the power -71. So I can write this as 32. So this place is going to be 32, 4, 8, the 32, 4 plus 1 into 2 to the power -71. So 32 plus 8 is 40, 44, 45. So 45 by 32 into 2 to the power -71. Okay. So let's use a calculator. What is 45 by 32? 45 divided by 32. 1.40625. So it is 1.40625 multiplied by 2 to the power -71. Okay. This is going to be the value corresponding to this binary number. If I represent this binary number in 32-bit floating point representation, the corresponding value is going to be this. Okay. All right. So let's convert this to 10 to the power something, because this is in 2 to the power something format. So if you want, you can convert it to 10 to the power something format. Okay. So let's write this multiplied by 2 to the power -71. So it is 5.9557004. So 5.9557004 into e to the power means 10 to the power -22. Okay, so this is the corresponding number in decimal. Okay, you can write it either in this form or in this form. All right. Okay, so let's check whether this is correct or not by using an online converter, online floating point converter, whether my calculation is correct or not. So let me just open a Google and type IEEE 754 floating point. IEEE 754 floating point converter. And here Suppose I am writing 5.9557004. So 5.9557004 e to the power minus 22. Okay. So if I write this, this is showing the corresponding binary representation. Okay. Let's try to match this. So here the first bit is the sign bit. The next 8 bits are 0, 0, 1, 1, 1, 0, 0, 0. Okay. You notice this binary number. It is sign bit is 0. The exponent bits are 0, 0, 1, 1, 1, 0, 0, 0. Okay. This is exactly matching with the corresponding exponent 0, 0, 1, 1, 1, 0, 0, 0. Clear? And then the remaining part is the Mantessa section. So the Mantessa is 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, all zeros. So 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, all zeros. Okay. So from this converter, you can see that the value that I have obtained, if I convert it back to the corresponding binary representation, I'm exactly getting the same number. Okay. That shows that my calculation is correct. Okay. So in this way, we can convert from a binary floating point number to its corresponding decimal value. Clear? Okay. Now let's try to understand the questions, couple of questions that we have. First one is, why do we need XS 127 representation, or why we are using the XS 127 representation? And second one is, why you are using the normalization. Okay. So let's learn the answer to these two questions. The first question is, why XS 127 representation? Okay. Now, one thing I forgot to mention while using this normalized or while describing this normalized value. So in case of normalized value, the exponent cannot be all zeros or all ones. Okay. Exponent cannot be not equal to all zeros, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, or all ones. Okay. Why? Because they are reserved for the this denormalized, represent with the denormalized value and special values. Okay. When the exponents are all zeros, this represents denormalized value. When exponents are all ones, this represents special values. All right. For normalized values, the exponents are going to be neither all zeros nor all ones. Okay. This is one point that I forgot to mention. So whenever we are representing normalized value, the exponent cannot be all zeros or all ones. Yeah. Okay. Now let's see, why do we use XS 127 representation? So as I said that if I give you a binary string, the corresponding formula for converting into decimal number is -1 to the power s into 1.m into 2 to the power e minus 127, right? Okay. So let's only concentrate on this e to the power, sorry, e minus 127 term, all right, or 2 to the power e minus 127 term. So as I said that the exponent cannot be all zeros or all ones. That means it may vary from 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1 to 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 0. This is the range of exponent, right? Because all zeros are reserved for denormalized values, all ones are reserved for representing special values. Okay. So only for normalization values, the bits may vary from all zeros follows by 1, 2, all ones follows by 0. This is the range of numbers. Okay, that means the next number is going to be 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, and in this way. The previous number is going to be 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 0, 1. Okay, this is going to be the previous number. 0, 1, 1, 0, and then last number is going to be 1, 1, which is reserved for special values. All right, so this is the range of numbers. So if I convert it to decimal, it is going to be 1, this is going to be 2, this is going to be 3, and in this way this will keep going. So all ones follows by 0 is 2, 5, 4, right? All ones means 2, 5, 5. Okay, if 8 bits are 1, that means all ones is 2, 5, 5. All ones follows by 0 is 2, 5, 4. The previous number is going to be 2, 5, 3. Okay, so in this way, these values are going to vary. Okay, so the exponent is going to vary from 1 to 254. If I convert it to the corresponding decimal numbers, it will vary from 1 to 254. Okay, so if e varies from 1 to 254, let's see what is going to be the range of 2 to the power e minus 127. So when e is 1, it is going to be 2 to the power 1 minus 127, which is minus 126. When e is 2, it is going to be 2 minus 127, which is 2 to the power minus 125. When e is 3, it is going to be 3 minus 127, which is 2 to the power minus 124. Okay, in this way. So when e is 254, it is going to be 2 to the power 254 minus 127, which is 2 to the power 254 minus 127 is 2 to the power 127, right? And when e is 253, it is going to be 2 to the power 253 minus 127, which is 2 to the power 126. All right. So if e varies from 1 to 254, 2 to the power e minus 127 will vary from 2 to the power minus 126 to 2 to the power 127. So if I observe this, then we can see that using this excess 127 representation, we can represent both 2 to the power minus numbers as well as 2 to the power positive numbers. Okay, here I am writing 2 to the power minus numbers as well as 2 to the power plus values. Okay, so using this excess 127 representation, I can represent both 2 to the power minus values as well as 2 to the power negative values as well as 2 to the power positive values. 2 to the positive values are going to be used when you want to increase the number, increase the value of the number. 2 to the power negative values means numbers are very small, or the exponent part is very, very small, very close to 0. Clear? All right. So using this 127 representation, we are representing both 2 to the power positive values as well as 2 to the power negative values. And that's the main purpose why we are using excess 127 representation. We want to cover both 2 to the power positive values as well as 2 to the power negative values. All right. That's why we are using this 127 representation. Okay. The next question is why normalization? So as I said that if I give you a floating point number, while converting it to decimal number, you want to use you will use the formula minus 1 to the power s into 1.m into 2 to the power e minus 127. And this is the place where I am using the normalization. Okay. So someone may ask you the question that why I'm using this normalization. So instead of doing this, why I'm not using this formula minus 1 to the power s into 0.m into 2 to the power e minus 127. Okay. Because mantissa is the fractional part, So instead of writing 0 point fraction, why I am writing 1 point fraction? That's the question. So why not this? That's the key question. Okay. So let me answer this by using a simple example. Suppose I'm going to use this formula for the conversion. Okay. So suppose I'm giving a binary number that looks like this: 0, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 0. So these are the 8 bits corresponding to the exponent, or let me put 1 zeros, 1, 0. So 6, 1 followed by 2 zeros, and then 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. Okay. This is the sign bit, this is the exponent bit, and this is the matrix. And now, instead of using this formula, I'm going to use this one. And let's see what is the problem. Okay. So if I use this formula, then I can write minus 1 to the power s minus 1 to the power 0 into 0 point fraction. So 0.100. I'm not writing more zeros. This is in binary format, into 2 to the power e minus 127. Okay. What is the value of e if I convert it to decimal? So all ones are going to be 255, right? When it is all ones, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, it is 255. When it is all ones followed by 0, it is going to be 254. All ones followed by 0, 1 is going to be 253, and all ones followed by 0, 0 is 252. So this number is basically 252. So 2 to the power 252 minus 127. Okay. So this part is 1, 0.100 in binary, multiplied by 2 to the power 252 minus 127 is how much? This is 5. So 12, 13, so 125. Okay. All right. So how can I convert 0.100 to decimal? It is very simple, 0.100. So this is the 0th bit. This is the minus 1, minus 2, and minus 3. So this is going to be equal to 0 into 2 to the 0, I am not writing, 1 into 2 to the minus 1, plus 0 into 2 to the minus 2, and 0 into 2 to the minus 3, I am not writing. So 2 to the minus 1 means 1 by 2, which is equal to 0.5. So this is going to be 0.5 into 2 to the power 125. Okay. So the value, the decimal value is going to be this. All right. So this value basically represents this binary number. Now let's see. So I can write this 0.5 into 2 to the power 125 as, so I can break 0.5 into 0.25 into 2, right? 0.5 is equal to 0.25 into 2 to the power 125. I can write it in this format. So then the corresponding value is going to be 0.25 into 2 to the power 126. Now let's see. Now let me show you that I can represent this number in a different binary format. Let me show you. So 0.25 into 2 to the power 126, I can write as minus 1 to the power 0 into 1.0 0 1 0 0. Sorry, not 1 point. Let me write it over here. So this number I can write as minus 1 to the power 0 into 0 0.01000 into 2 to the power 253 minus 127. Okay, 253 minus 127 is 126, and 0.01 is 0.25. Okay, isn't it? You can just quickly convert. Let me just erase this. So 0.0100. So this is the 0th bit. This is the -1. This is -2. I'm not writing the remaining part. So ultimately you will get 1 into 2 to the power -2. 1 into 2 to the -2 is 1 by 4. 1 by 4 is 0.25. So this 0.25 I can represent as 0.0100. Yeah. So that means if I write this part into binary, I'm going to get sine beta as 0. The Mantessa is this one. The exponent is going to be 253 converted to binary. So 253 converted to binary is 11111101. So 11111101. The Mantessa part is 01 all zeros. 010000. Right? So then you can notice that this value and this value are both identical, right? 0.5 into 2 to the 125 is 0.25 into 2 to the 126. Both are identical. The values are identical, but their binary representation is different. Clear? So that means if I use this formula, then I am getting two different binary representation corresponding to the same value. Okay, I'm getting two different binary representation corresponding to the same value. And this is not going to stop over here, because I can show you that I can write this 125, 0.25 into 2 to the 126 as 0.125 into 2. 0.25 is 0.125 into 2 into 2 to the power 126. So basically I can write this as 0.125 into 2 to the power 127. And this I can represent in a different way. If I convert it to its corresponding binary representation, I will get a different binary number. So here the sign bit is 0. The exponent is going to be, so this is 0.125 into 2 to the power 254 minus 127. So 2 to the power 254 is all zeros, all ones followed by 0. That means I'm going to get the exponent part is going to be all ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 followed by 0. The Mantessa part is going to be 0, 0, 1, all zeros. Okay, because if we represent this Mantessa part, it is going to be 0.001 all zeros. So 0.001 is, this is 0, this is -1, this is -2, this is -3. That means this is going to be equal to 1 into 2 to the power -3, which is 1 by 8. 1 by 8 is 0.125. Okay. So 0.125 can be represented in 0.001 all zeros format. Okay. So basically, this value is also same as this value, which is also same as this value. So all these three values are same, but I am getting three different representation. Okay. Okay, this representation, this is the first representation. This is the second, this is the third representation. For representing the same values, I am using different binary pattern. And again, this is not going to stop over here also. 0.125 you can also break as 0.0625 into 2. So then you will get another representation. Okay. So the point is, using this formula corresponding to the same value, you are getting different binary pattern. And this is going to create ambiguity in the first place. And second of all, for representing the same value, you are wasting multiple binary pattern. So basically, this is not an efficient scheme either. Okay. So that's why this format is not, or this formula is not going to be used. We are going to normalize the fractional part to avoid this ambiguity. Okay. So this is the reason why we need normalization, and I have already explained why we need XS 127 representation. So overall, I think you have got the idea of how a floating point is represented using IEEE 754 representation, and why do we need XS 127 representation? Why do we need normalization? Okay. All right. So by this time, you should be able to convert a binary floating point number to its corresponding decimal notation. All right. And again, once after the conversion, you can use a online floating point converter and you can check whether your answer is matched. Now let's do the opposite operation. So we have learned how to convert from binary floating point to decimal conversion. Now let's take a decimal number and then convert it to binary floating point. Let's learn how we can convert from decimal to binary floating point. Okay. Let's take a decimal number, decimal floating point number, say 131.3. Okay. And let's see how we can convert this to binary floating point number. So let me show you the steps, okay, and gradually it will be clearer. So the first step is to convert the integer part and the fractional part separately to its binary format. Okay. We know how to convert from integer to binary. I'm going to show you how to convert from floating point number to its corresponding binary representation. Okay. Let's first convert from decimal to binary in case of integer, for the integer part. So what did we learn? If I want to convert from integer to binary, I need to write it in something multiplied by 2 plus something part, right? So 131 is 65 multiplied by 2 plus 1. And then I'm going to use the same thing on 65. So 65 can be written as 32 into 2 plus 1. 32 is 16 into 2 plus 0. 16 is equal to 8 into 2 plus 0. 8 is equal to 4 into 2 plus 0. 4 is equal to 2 into 2 plus 0. And then 2 is equal to 1 into 2 plus 0. And then 1 equal to 0 into 2 plus 1. So 131 decimal means the corresponding binary number is, basically I need to traverse the remainder in reverse order. So I'm going to get 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 zeros, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 1. This is the corresponding binary number corresponding to 131. Okay. Now let's convert 0.3 to its corresponding binary representation. Okay. We know how to convert from integer to binary. Fraction to binary is exactly the opposite. So in this case, I am basically dividing by 2. Here I am going to multiply by 2. So fractional part will be multiplied by 2. So it is going to be 0.6. So I'm going to store the integer part over here. The fractional part will go in the next step. So in the next step, I'm going to again multiply this by 2, which will give me 1.2. So I'm going to store the integer part. The fractional part will go in the next stage. This process will go on. So 0.4. The integer part is going to be 0. The fractional part will go over here. So 0.8. Integer part is going to be 0. Fraction part will go 1.6. So 1.6 into 2. 1.2. 1.22. 0.4. 0.4 will go over here. 0.8. 0.8 will come over here. 1.6. 1. Okay, and so on. So 0.6 will come over here again. So 1 and then 0.2 will come up in the next step. So if you notice carefully, you will see that this 0.6, 0.2, 0.4, 0.8 is getting repeated. 0.2, 0.6, 0.2, 0.4, 0.8 is also getting repeated over here. 0.6, 0.2, 0.4, and 0.8. And then again the same terms are going to come 0.6, 0.2, 0.4, 0.8, and so on. Okay. Corresponding to this binary pattern, 1001 is getting repeated. 1001. Similarly, 1001 will get repeated. Okay. So corresponding to this fractional number, I'm going to get 0, 1001, 1001, 1001, and so on. All right. And I mean, this process needs to go on until unless the fractional part is going to be 0. Okay. So in this case, as we can see that we'll never going to get a 0 at the end. All right. So this is going to be 0, 1001, 1001, 1001. It is go like this. So 0.3, if I convert it to its corresponding binary representation, I'm going to get 0 followed by 1001, 1001, 1001, and so on. So this is going to be 0 followed by 1001, 1001, 1001, and so on. Okay. All right. So 131 and 0.3 I have converted separately to its corresponding binary representation. So the first step is basically to write the integer part, which is 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 1. Point the fractional part, which is 0, 1, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, 0, 1, and so on. Okay. So we are only going to write up to 32 bits, right? Because we are going to dealing with 32-bit numbers. So this is going to be the first step. First step is basically to convert the integer part to binary, point fraction part to binary. Clear? Okay. The next step is basically to bring this point from here to here. Okay, we want to bring this point from here to here. Why? Because my ultimate goal is basically to represent this number in this format: -1 to the power s into 1.m into 2 to the power e minus 127. Okay. So I'm trying to represent this number in this format, and after that I'm going to extract the s, m, and e part, and then I'm going to convert these two. If I get the sign part, Mantresa part, and exponent part, I'm going to convert this to its corresponding binary form. Okay. So basically, my next goal is basically to bring this point from here to here, so that I can get a term like this. Okay. So the convention is that whenever you are moving this point one bit to the left, you need to multiply this number by 2. Okay. If you come from here to here, you will multiply it by 2. If you come from here to here, you need to multiply it by 2 square. Here to here, 2 cube. 2 to the power 4, 2 to the power 5, 2 to the power 6, 2 to the power 7. That means if I bring this from here to here and to multiply this number by 2 to the power 7. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Clear? So this is going to be equal to 1.0000011 and then 0, 1001, 1001, 1001 multiplied by 2 to the power 7. Okay. Now, if you compare this term with this expression, you will get all the different fields. Here, sign bit is 0 because it is a positive number. Okay, so sign bit is 0. Mantissa part is, so this is basically your Mantissa means it's a fractional part. So this is your Mantissa part. So Mantissa is going to be 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, and then 0, 1, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, 0, 1, and so on. And what is the exponent part? So here 7 is equal to e minus 127. So e minus 127 is equal to 7. So e is going to be 134. 127 plus 7 is 134. So 134, if I convert it to binary, what is going to be the corresponding binary number? So 124 equal to 67 into 2 plus 0. So 67 equal to 33 into 2 plus 1. 33 is 16 into 2 plus 1. 16 equal to 8 into 2 plus 0. 8 equal to 4 into 2 plus 0. 4 equal to 2 into 2 plus 0. 2 equal to 1 into 2 plus 0. 1 equal to 0 into 2 plus 1. So that means the binary number is going to be 1 0 0 0 0 1 1 0. Okay. So the E is going to be equal to 1 0 0 0 0 1 1 0. Basically, I have converted 134 to binary. So you got your sign, Mantissa, and exponent field. Now you can easily write the binary number. Okay. Let me just erase this. So the binary numbers are going to be sign followed by next 8 bits of exponent. So 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. So 1 0 0 0 0 1 1 0, and the remaining field is Mantissa. So 0 0 0 0 0 1 1 0 1 0 0 1 1 0 0 1 1 0 0 1, and ultimately you need to follow repeat this process until unless the 32 bits are getting exhausted. Okay, so this is your binary representation corresponding to the number 131.3. Okay, if you convert this to binary, this is going to be your final answer. Again, let me check whether my conversion is correct or not. So if I write 131, sorry, 131.3, then I will get the sign bit is 0. Next 8 bits are 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. So next 8 bits are 1 0 0 0 0 1 1 0. Okay, here also I got 1 0 0 0 0 1 1 0. The Mantissa part is 0 0 0 0 0 1. So 0 0 0 0 1 1 0. 0 0 0 0 0 1 1 0 and then 1 0 0 1 1 0 0 1 1 0 0 1 is going to fall. Okay, 1 0 0 1 1 0 0 1 1 0 0 1 will come to fall. So in this way you need to write it until unless all the 32 bits are will get exhausted. So in this way you can convert from decimal to binary in case of floating point representation. Okay, the steps is the following. You need to the first step is basically to convert the integer part to binary and the floating point part to binary, and then write it in this format. Next, you need to move the point from here to here, and every time you are going to move it one bit to the left, you need to multiply by 2. So here I moved 7 bits to the left, so I'm going to multiply it by 7. And then after writing in 1.m into 2 to the something format, I'm going to get the mantissa, I'm going to get my exponent, and as it is a positive number, sign bit is 0. If it is a negative number, sign bit is going to be 1. Okay, so I got the sign, mantissa, and exponent, but I need to just write sign bit, then next 8 bits are exponent, next 23 bits are mantissa. That's it. So in this way, you can convert from decimal to binary in case of a floating point representation. Okay. All right. So we have done enough of mathematics. Let's write a program that is going to take, say, this floating point number 131.3, and then let's see how we can convert it to binary using C programming. Okay. Okay. Let's call it, say, floats.c. So here I have a floating point number, say float f equal to 131.3, and I want to convert it to binary. Okay. So here I'm going to use a trick. Okay. Let's try to understand the trick. Let me describe this in small steps. So first, let's open the converter and let's get the complete binary number. Let me convert 131.3 to its binary number. So this is going to be the number. Let me just copy it and put it over here for the sake of explanation. So this is basically the answer that I want to get, because I am converting from decimal to binary. Okay. So I want to see this number as my output. Clear? Okay. The question is, how can I fetch this number? So whenever you are writing float f equal to 131.3, that means in the memory location 32 bits are getting allocated, and in that 32 bits this bit pattern is getting stored. Okay. So I'm trying to fetch that bit pattern from that memory. Okay. So here I'm going to use a trick, which is the following. That means whenever you are writing 131.3, this bit pattern is basically stored in the memory. Okay. The first job is basically to read that bit pattern in an integer format. Okay. These are the steps. First, I'm going to read that bit pattern in an integer format. And then once I read that integer, read the bit pattern in an integer format, I know how to convert from integer to binary. So I'm going to use that technique. Okay. Let's try to understand this trick. 131.3, whenever you are 131.3 in the memory location is stored in this binary format. So my goal is basically to read that bit string. So for doing this, I'm going to read this entire bit string in an integer format. Okay. Integer also take 32 bits, so I can basically read this in an integer format. And once I read this in an integer format, I can convert it to binary, because I know how to convert from integer to binary. Okay. So let's see. Let's suppose n is an integer. Okay. So I want to store the corresponding integer value to n. Clear to all of you? How can I do so? Let's see the steps. So here f is equal to 131. So the value of f is basically this one, right? If I write ampersand f, what does this mean? Ampersand f stores the address where this bit pattern is stored, right? Ampersand f stores the address of the place where, or of the location where this bit pattern is stored. Or I can also say that ampersand s is the pointer that points to this location, right? So ampersand f is the floating point pointer that points to this location where this bit pattern is stored. Now, if I convert this from floating point pointer to integer pointer, then I'm going to get an integer pointer that is point to this location where the bit pattern is stored. Clear? So I got the integer pointer that points to this location where this bit pattern is stored. If I put a star before this, that means I'm going to get the value where pointed to by this pointer, right? So star of this is going to give me the value in an integer format. So basically this value I can store in n. Okay, the steps needs to be understood clearly. So whenever you are writing 131.3 in your memory location, this bit pattern is getting stored. So I want to fetch that bit pattern, but I want to read it in an integer format. So for doing that, what did I do? I first said that ampersand f is basically the pointer that points to the memory location where this integer is stored, or where this binary bit pattern is stored. But ampersand f is a floating point pointer. I'm converting it to an integer pointer. So this pointer points to the memory location where this bit pattern is stored. And as it is an integer pointer, if I put a star before, I'm going to get the value of that integer corresponding to this binary format. This value I'm storing it in an integer n. Alright. And now my next job is basically to convert n from decimal to binary, which I think is pretty simple at this point because we have already known. So let me declare a string of 33 characters. Okay. Why 33? Because 32 for storing all these zeros and ones in character format, and one additional character to store the termination character. Okay. Because every string is to terminated with the termination character. And then I need to run a loop. So let me first write down the loop, and then I can explain. 0 I less than 32 I plus plus. I can convert it in different ways. One way is the following: bits of 32 minus I minus 1. So when it is 0, it is going to be 33. Yes. And then I'm taking n and 1 bitwise and plus ASCII value of 0. Okay. This plus ASCII value of 0, you know, because I'm basically converting it from numeric value to character value. And then I'm using n and 1 in every step. Right shift by 1 bit. Okay. So let's see what these two lines are doing. Basically, you want to convert from an integer to its corresponding bit representation. Okay. So let's see. So suppose n is equal to say 1 0 1 1. Okay. Let me show you just with the help of 4 bits. Okay. Here, in case instead of 4 bit, there are 32 bits, but let me show the logic using only 4 bit. So suppose I want to extract this bits. Okay. So what am I doing? I'm taking bitwise and then after every step, I am basically right shifting by 1 bit. So let's see. If I take bitwise and with 1, 1 means 0, 0, 0, 1. If I take bitwise and 1 is going to be 0, 0, 0, and then 1 and 1 is 1. So ultimately, you will get 1. Okay. Next, I am right shifting n by 1 bit. So n right shift by 1 is this one will come over here. This 0 will come over here. This 1 will come over here. This place will be occupied by 0. And then I'm again taking and with 1. So 1 is going to be 0, 0, 0, 1. And then n and 1 is going to be 0, 0, 0, 1 and 1 is 1. So ultimately you will get 1. Alright. Then again you are right shifting n by 1. So this 0 will come here. This 1 will come here. This 0 will come here. This place will be occupied by 0. So again I will take and with 1. So 0, 0, 0, 1. And if I take n and 1, I will get 0, 0, 0, 0. Okay. So this place, this is going to be 0. And then again I am going to right shift by 1. So this 1 will come here. This 0 will come here. This 0 will come here. This place will be occupied by 0. If I add with 1, I will get 0, 0, 0, 1. So n and 1 is going to be 0, 0, 0, 1 and 1 is 1. Okay. So now I need to traverse these numbers in reverse order to get the corresponding value. 1, 0, 1. Okay. Now I need to traverse these values in reverse order. All right. And that is basically taken care of by this 32 minus I minus 1. Okay, clear to everyone? So every iteration, I'm adding it with 1 and then convert it to character. And then I am shifting n to the right by 1 bit. And then again adding with 1. Okay. Basically here, in each and every step, it is checking whether the rightmost bit is 1 or 0. In the first case, the rightmost bit is 1. In the next case, I have moved this bit to this position and checking whether this bit is 0 or 1. In the next step, I have moved this bit to this position and I'm checking whether this bit is 0 or 1. In the next step, I move this bit to this position and I'm checking whether this bit is 0 or 1. That is the logic. Yeah. So after this step, bits array is going to store the zeros and ones in character format, and I need to terminate this array with termination. And then if I print read representation is %s, let's see what is going to be the answer. So you can see that this is the corresponding bit pattern. Okay, so let's match this with this one. So here the sign bit is 0, sign bit is 0, that's fine. Next 8 bits 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0. Here also 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0 is the exponent bits, and the remaining bits are matrices. So 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 1, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, 0, 1, 0, 0. Here also you will get 5 zeros, okay, followed by 1, 1, 0, 1, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, 0, 1, 1, and in this way, this process is going to continue, or this trend is going to continue. So in this way, we can see that we can convert from a floating point number to its corresponding binary representation. And you can change this to any other number, say 131.5 for example. 131.5 is giving 0, 1, 0, 0 0 1 1 0, and then in 5 zeros follows by 1 1 1 all zeros. Okay, so let's use this converter 140 31.5. If I do it 0 1 0 0 0 0 1 1 0, okay, 1 0 0 0 0 1 1 0, and then followed by 5 zeros, followed by 3 ones, followed by 5 zeros, 3 ones, and then all zeros. Okay, that means the outcome is matching with the online converter also. Okay. So in this way, you can convert, you can write a program to convert from floating point to its corresponding binary representation. Okay. So at this point, we have learned to represent normalized values using IEEE 754 floating point representation, right? So if I give you a 32-bit floating point number, then you need to divide this number in 3 sections. First section becomes the sign bit, the next 8 bit represents the exponent bit, and the next 23 bits represent the Mandelson bit. And after doing this, if you want to convert it to the corresponding decimal number, you need to do minus 1 to the power s into 1.m into 2 to the power e minus 127. Okay, so here 127 is the bias term. All right, and also we have learned that in normalized value, or in case of normalized value, e is not equal to all zeros and e is not equal to all ones. Okay, so if I give you 32-bit binary number and I will tell you that this is a floating point, this represents a floating point number, then first how we are going to check that whether it is a normalized value or not? You basically need to check the e fields. Okay, if they are all non-zeros or all non-ones, then it is going to be normalized mode. Okay, because all zeros are reserved for denormalized values, or all zeros are reserved for representing denormalized value, all ones are reserved for representing spatial values. Correct. So in normalized values, sign bits may be 0 or 1 based on whether it is positive or no, negative numbers. E is not all zeros, not all ones. Okay, and the mantissa field can be anything. Okay, so by looking at the 8-bit exponent, you need to ensure that, or you need to check whether the number is normalized value or not. Clear? Okay. Now the next question is, with this formula, can we represent number 0? So suppose I want to represent number 0. Can you do it using this formula? If you check very carefully, you can see that there are 3 fields: minus 1 to the power s, 1.m, and 2 to the power e minus 127. So minus 1 to the power s cannot be 0, irrespective of the value of s, right? 1.m cannot be 0 either, right? Because if you put all the mantissa bits to be 0, still 1.0 is not going to be 0. and 2 to the power e minus 127 is also not going to be 0. 2 to the power anything cannot be 0. So neither of these three things is going to be 0. Okay, so that means with using this formula, I will not be able to represent number 0. Okay, all right. And not only that, we can observe that using these normalized values or using this formula, we can only go till 2 to the power minus 126. Okay, so we can vary the exponent from 127 to minus 126. All right, but suppose I want to represent smaller numbers than 2 to the power minus 126, say 2 to the minus 130 or 2 to the power minus 135. So using this formula, I will not be able to represent those values. Clear? So let's see whether we can resolve this by using denormalized values or using the concept of denormalized values. So in case of denormalized values, E is all zeros. Okay. So in case of denormalized value, the corresponding formula is minus 1 to the power s into 0.m. Okay, we are not doing any normalization on matrix. Into 2 to the power, instead of e minus 127, here e is all zeros. Okay, the corresponding formula is 2 to the power 1 minus 127. All right. Okay. So first of all, if I give you a 32-bit floating point number, then how are you going to check whether it is representing denormalized values or not? Again, you need to divide it in sign bit, exponent bits, and Mantessa bit. And then if all the exponent bits are zeros, okay, and all the exponent bits are zeros, then it is representing denormalized values. Okay, and here Mantessa bit can be anything. All right. So let's see by using this formula whether we will be able, whether we can represent 0. So suppose I want to represent 0, then the sign bit is 0 because it is positive number, and as it is representing denormalized value, all the exponent bits are zeros. Okay, and then if I want to make this field 0, then I need to put all the Mantessa bits to be 0. Okay, 0.m. That means I need to make all the Mantessa bits to be 0. So there will be 23 zeros in the Mantessa field. All right. So it seems that using this formula, this bit pattern represents 0. Basically, all the zeros represents zeros. Okay. And this goes with our intuition that when it is 0, that means all the bits are 0. Yeah. So using this, the formula of denormalized value, we can see that we can represent 0, which was not possible using the normalized formula corresponding to the normalized values. All right. Okay. So here also 127 is the bias term. All right. So one of the problem that we are encountering is representing 0, which we can or which we can resolve by using this formula of denormalized values. All right. Okay. What's about the problem that I was explaining in a minute? That suppose I want to represent numbers that are lesser than 2 to the power minus 126, for example 2 to the minus 130 or 2 to the minus 135. How we can represent those numbers? So let's take a number. Suppose I want to represent 2 to the power minus 130 plus 2 to the power minus 134. So this number, suppose I want to represent this number, I cannot represent this number using normalized or the formula of normalized value, because we have already seen that normalized value we can go till 2 to the minus 126. Okay, so we cannot go beyond 2 to the minus 126. 2 to the minus 130 and 2 to the minus 134 is even smaller than 2 to the minus 126. Okay, all right. So let's see, by using the formula of denormalized values, whether we will be able to represent this number or not. Okay. All right. So let's try to represent these values 2 to the minus 130 plus 2 to the minus 134 using this formula. Okay. So as it is a positive number, I can write minus 1 to the power 0 into 0 point something, 0 point mantissa. So I'm writing 0 point something that I'm going to fill up into 2 to the power 1 minus 127. What is 1 minus 127? Minus 126. All right. Okay. So this 0 point mantissa part is in binary format. So which bit pattern I need to put in the mantissa part to ensure that this value is going to be 2 to the minus 130 plus 2 to the minus 134? If you think for a minute, you'll be able to understand that in the mantissa part, the first bit after the fraction will get a weightage of 2 to the power minus 1. Okay. Next bit is going to get a weightage of 2 to the minus 2. Next one will get a weightage of 2 to the minus 3, minus 4, minus 5, minus 6, minus 7, minus 8, or so on. Right? Okay. Now, which number you need to multiply with 2 to the minus 126 to make it 2 to the minus 130? Which number I need to multiply 2 to the minus 126 to make it 130? It is 2 to the minus 4, right? And which number I need to multiply with 2 to the minus 126 to make it 2 to the minus 134? It is 2 to the minus 8. Okay, so this number I need to multiply with 2 to the minus 126 to make it 2 to the minus 130 plus 2 to the minus 130. Yeah. So that means here, and if I want to fill up this matrix section, I need to ensure that 2 to the minus 4, this term needs to be 1. Okay, and 2 to the corresponding to 2 to the minus 8, that means this term needs to be 1. All the other terms will be 0. Okay. So if I multiply 0.0001 0001 into 2 to the power 126, I will get a value of 2 to the minus 130 plus 2 to the minus 134. Okay, because this one will give a weightage of 2 to the minus 4. This one will give a weightage of 2 to the minus 8, which needs to be multiplied with 2 to the minus 126 to get the value of 2 to the minus 130 plus 2 to the minus 134. So that means using this formula of denormalized value, I can represent both 0 and also I can represent a value that is smaller than 2 to the power minus 126. Okay, so that means using this formula I can resolve the issue that I was facing with the formula of representing normalized value. Okay. So basically, if this line represents all the numbers, if suppose this is 0, so this is the positive numbers, this side represents positive numbers and this side represents negative numbers, then the number that are either 0 or very close to 0, for them we need to use the formula of denormalized values. Okay, and the numbers that are or beyond this point, we need to use the concept of or formula of normalized values. Okay, so numbers that are either 0 or very close to 0, for them we need to use the concept of or the formula of denormalized value. Okay, that's it. All right, so let's go to the program and check whether the bit pattern that we have observed in case of number 0 and number 2 to the minus 130 plus 2 to the minus 134 is indeed giving me this bit pattern. Okay, so let's. All right, so first let's make the float f equal to 0. Okay, and let's run the program. So you can see that the corresponding bit representation is all zeros. Okay, so sign bit is 0, exponent bits are also zeros, and all the matrix bits are 0. Okay, so all zeros means it's a it represents number 0. Clear? Okay, now let's ignore this line. Next, I was trying to check the value 2 to the power minus 130 plus 2 to the minus 134. So power of 2 to the power minus 130 plus power of 2 to the power minus 134. Okay, so I need to include math.h because I am using the power function. All right. Okay. So now you can see that this is the bit pattern corresponding to the number 2 to the minus 130 plus 2 to the minus 130. So here also the exponent bits are all zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. And if you notice the mantissa bits, it is 001, sorry, 0001, 0001, followed by all zeros. Okay. So 0001, so this position represents 2 to the minus 4. This position represents, or this position gets a weightage of 2 to the minus 4. This position gives a weightage of 2 to the minus 8. Okay. That means ultimately I'm going to get this bit pattern corresponding to this number. Okay. So in both of these cases, you will see that all the exponent bits are going to be all zeros. So if the exponent bits are all zeros, you need to understand that this is representing denormalized values. Clear? Okay. So we have learned how to represent normalized value as well as denormalized value using the floating point notation. Now, the last case is how to represent spatial values. So special values means, suppose I want to represent plus infinity or minus infinity or not a number. Not a number means say square root of -1. Okay, these are example of not a number. So these are the special values, and let's see how we can represent special values using the IEEE 754 floating point notation. So as I have said that for special values, the exponent bits are going to be all ones. All right. So let's see how we will be able to, or how we will be able to identify whether a bit pattern represents plus infinity, minus infinity, or not a number. Okay. So we need to understand whether a number or bit pattern represents plus infinity, minus infinity, or not a number. All right. Okay. So these are the first bit is sign bit, the next 8 bits are Mantis, sorry, next 8 bits are exponent, and the remaining 23 bits are Mantis. Okay. So as all these three cases are representing special values, that means the exponent bits are going to be all ones. All ones. Okay. In case of plus infinity, the sign bit is 0. In case of minus infinity, the sign bit is 1. Now, when the number is either plus infinity or minus infinity, all the Mantis bits are zeros. Okay. All right. So if all the exponent bits are ones and all the Mantis bits are zeros, that means it represents infinity. Okay. Whether it is plus infinity or minus infinity depends on the sign bit. Clear? Now, in case of not a number, the sign bit can be anything. All the exponent bits are all ones. And in case of the Mantissa part, not all the Mantissa bits are going to be zeros. Not all zeros. Okay. Clear to everyone? So if all the exponent bits are all ones, that means it represents special values. Okay. So that means it can be either plus infinity, minus infinity, or it can be not a number. All right. So then you need to check the Mantissa bits. If the Mantissa bits are all zeros, it will represent plus infinity or minus infinity. Okay, so whether it is plus or minus depend on the sign bit. And if all the Mantissa bits are not zeros, then it will represent not a number. Okay, clear to everyone? So using this or by looking at this bit pattern, you will be able to understand whether it represents special values or not. And in case of special values, you need to check whether, or you will be able to check whether it is representing plus infinity, minus infinity, or not a number case. Clear? Okay, so let's go to the program and let's check. Let's check, or let's make float f equal to plus infinity. Okay. So plus infinity, how can I write plus infinity? Anything that is divided by, or if I divide something with 0, I will get plus infinity, right? So let's write 5, 5, 0 points. Okay. So let's run this. So this will be plus infinity, right? So here you will see that as it is a plus, the sign bit is 0. All the exponent bits are ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All the 8 bits are once. That means it is representing special case or special values. And all the mantissa bits are all zeros. Okay. So exactly whatever I have written in the notepad. All right. And if you want to make it minus infinity, then the only thing that will change is the sign bit. Okay. Apart from the sign bit, all the exponent bits are all ones. All the mantissa bits are all zeros. Clear? Okay. Now let's create the case of not a number. So for the case of not a number, I can make square root of -1. Square root of -1 is not a number. Okay. So let's run it. Okay. So it is giving an error for using the function square root of 1. So let's link the math library. Okay. So here it is showing bit representation is this. Okay. So let's see. Here the sign bit can be anything. Next 8 bits are exponent 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. So next 8 bits are exponent. All the 8 bits are 1. Clear? But if you look at the mantissa section, not all the mantissa bits are 0. Okay. Unlike the plus infinity or minus infinity case, not all the mantissa bits are zeros. Okay. So if the mantissa bits are non-zeros and all the exponent bits are 1, then it will represent the case of not a number. Okay. So whatever we have written in the notepad is getting reflected from the code in the program output also. Okay. So with this, we have learned how to represent denormalized values, normalized value, as well as special values in case of 32-bit or single precision floating point representation. Okay. So in case of 32-bit floating point representation, the first bit is sign bit, next 8 bits are exponent, and next 23 bits are mantissa. Okay. And then we have learned the normalized case, denormalized case, and special case. Now, in case of 64-bit or double precision floating point representation, the technique is exactly the same. Okay. In case of finding normalized values, denormalized values, special values, the technique is exactly the same. What matters is the number of bits. Okay. In this case, you have 32-bit. In case of 64-bit floating point representation, you will have 64-bit. That means there will be different number of bits in exponent and mantissa section. Okay. Sign bit is going to be just 1 bit. So in case of 64-bit, the only thing that will change is the number of bits in exponent and mantissa section. Okay. All right. So in case of 64-bit representation, the first bit is the sign bit. The next 11 bits are exponent. and the remaining bits are Mantis. So 11 plus 1 is 12. 64 minus 12 is 52 bit. Okay. So the remaining 52 bits are Mantis. Clear? And here, so in case of 32-bit representation, the bias term was 127. In case of 64-bit representation, the bias term is 1023. Okay. Bias term is 1023 as opposed to 127. So other than these two difference, everything will remain the same. Okay. Other than the number of bits in exponent and Mantis section and the bias term, all the things that we have learned will remain the same. All right. So for example, for representing normalized value, the formula is minus 1 to the power s into 1 point Mantis into 2 to the power e minus bias. That's the formula for normalized values, right? The same formula we are going to use over here. All right. 1 point Mantis, this Mantis number of bits is going to change. 2 to the power e, the number of bits in e is going to change, and the bias term is going to change. All right. Similarly, for representing denormalized value, the corresponding formula is minus 1 to the power s into 0.m into 2 to the power 1 minus bias. So here also the only thing that is going to change is the number of bits in m and the bias term. Okay. Everything else will remain exactly the same. Okay. But if you notice that as the bias term is higher than that of the 32-bit representation, that means we can use this for increasing the level of precision. So 2 to the power 1 minus bias, so that means 2 to the power minus 1 or 2, okay, as opposed to if I write bias equal to 127, it is going to be 2 to the minus 126. Okay, that means we will be able to represent numbers with higher precision. All right. So we have seen that in case of 32-bit representation, we can represent numbers that are like 2 to the power minus 130 to the minus 134, like this. Okay, so with 32-bit representation, we can represent numbers like 2 to the minus 130, 134. So 2 to the 100 in the order 2 to the 100, right? Here you can go till 2 to the power plus minus 1000. Right? That means this 64-bit representation will give you more precision. All right.